My name's Elias Thornfield, and for 23 years I was a ranger in the Cascadian National Park. Those old-growth forests that cradle water so blue it looks like the world forgot to stain it properly. Long enough to know nature isn't always the friend people imagine it to be. But one October morning I saw something that made me throw my badge on the station desk without a word. 5 years later, I still wake up at night drenched in sweat. Heart punching my ribs because the scream echoing in my skull can't decide whether it's human or something pretending to be. It started on what should have been a routine patrol out at Raven Reach, a lonely stretch barely anyone visits. For weeks there had been strange reports around Silverpine Lake. Poaching numbers spiked, but the stories didn't match. Tourists swore they heard screams drifting out of the fog, half animal, half human plea. Pale lights flickered at the edge of the restricted zone. Not flashlights, but drifting, wandering, like they were beckoning. And then the blood trails, dry and dark, disappearing into the trees as if swallowed whole. I'd known Sylvan Crow for a decade. Big guy, warm smile, a local guide who helped me once pull a group of climbers out after a snowstorm. I can still feel the slap of his hand on my shoulder as he joked, "The forest is home, Elias, and home always welcomes you back." I believed him. We all did. God, what a fatal mistake. That morning the forest was too quiet. Not peaceful, smothered. No sparrows, no wind fritting through branches. Even the air felt thick, heavy, like the silence you get under frozen lake ice. 20 years in these woods had made my instincts sharp as knives. Every cell in me hissed the same thing. Turn around. Leave. Now. But duty is duty, and the map coordinates drew me deeper, past anything resembling a trail. The trees pressed in tight. The canopy above strangled the daylight, until noon looked like permanent dusk. My flashlight beam felt like it couldn't push more than a few feet ahead. Then the smell hit. Rot, yes, but mixed with something chemical, sharp enough to burn the back of my throat. It clung to my skin like invisible grease. I followed it, tightening my grip on the gun, feeling the forest flex inward with each step. Twigs cracked behind me like mocking laughter. Through a curtain of leaves, I saw a cabin, hunched low and rotting, wrapped in vines like it wanted to disappear. No smoke from the chimney, but fresh footprints stamped the wet soil. Many. Some dragging something heavy. I radioed my location only to get static. Just a steady hiss, like the forest was chewing up the signal. I was alone. Truly alone. I approached the door. Gun raised. The wooden plank hung slightly open. Darkness spilled out, thick as breath from a sleeping beast. I kicked it in and slid to the side. Empty room. Dust filming over everything. But footprints. Fresh laid to a ratty rug in the corner. I flipped it. A hatch. Locked. The stench that erupted made my eyes water and my stomach twist. I clicked on my flashlight and headed down creaking wooden steps. Each groan of the boards felt like a warning spoken through old bones. The basement stretched far wider than the cabin itself, carved deep into cold granite. And the moment my light swept across the room, my heart stopped dead. Rows of iron cages lined the walls. Some empty, some not. In the far corner, curled in a shadowed cage, was Marina Vale, the tourist missing for 3 weeks. Alive, but barely. Skin stretched taut, eyes wide, unfocused, ruined by terror. Others, she rasped, her voice like sandpaper scraping stone. There are others. That's when I noticed the second hatch leading even deeper underground. The stink radiating from that direction was so concentrated it felt like breathing hot glue. I hesitated. 1 second of pure instinct screaming, "Don't go down there." But I had to know. I opened Marina's cage, eased her out, gave her water, leaned her against the mildewed wall. "I'll be right back," I whispered. I was sure I believed it. The second basement was a waking nightmare. A long table stained dark with things that weren't water. Leather straps dangling. Rusted tools hanging like relics from the underworld. The floor mottled with something dark and permanent. And the walls covered in photos. Faces of every missing person in the region across 5 years. Some I remembered. Some I'd written off as accidents, lost hikers, storms. A faint whispering drifted from the corners of the darkness. Too soft to make out, too cold to be wind. The hair on my neck stood up. Then footsteps. Heavy. Above me. Marina whimpered. I bolted for the stairs. Gun drawn. The steps stopped at the top of the first hatch. And a voice deep, familiar, rolled down like thunder. I know you're down there, Ranger Thornfield. Saw your truck a mile out. Sylvan Crow. My blood iced. Sylvan. I called back, forcing my voice steady. Backup's on the way. Put the gun down. He laughed. I wet, broken chuckle that felt like winter crawling into my bones. No signal out here. Elias, just you. And Marina. Lucky girl's still breathing. I smelled gasoline before I heard the slosh of it hitting the floorboards above. Thick. Sweet. Fatal. 37, he said conversationally. That's how many have come through my hands. Marina lasted the longest. 3 whole weeks. The others, not so much. I scooped Marina up, dragging her toward the entrance as smoke trickled down the stairs. Sylvan kept talking, his voice weaving through the flames like a ghost savoring confession. They paid me to guide them. Thought I was some rescue hero type. But I'm a predator, Elias. Safety. Safety for me. Then by some miracle or curse I found a third tunnel. A narrow, hand-dug escape burrow. I shoved Marina through first, crawled after her, feeling dirt crumble and drain onto my back like the ceiling wanted to bury us alive. We clawed our way out beneath the trees, gasping. Smoke billowed from the cabin behind us. But Sylvan was already there, swaying slightly, grinning crookedly in the moonlight, shotgun raised. You know, he said, finger tightening on the trigger, I never planned on killing a ranger. But you found my nest. Marina collapsed beside me. I rose, gun up, but he had the advantage. The families, I croaked, they deserve the truth. He shrugged, madness sparking in his eyes. Fire LL take care of the cabin. The other sites. Only I know where they are. Then something moved in the smoke behind him. At first I thought it was help, a rescuer. But the way it staggered jerky, unnatural, made my stomach drop. Marker settings. Missing tourist from last week, blood-soaked. Half collapsed. Eyes burning with a hatred so raw it didn't look human anymore. Marcus slammed into Sylvan. The shotgun cracked once, twice. Then both bodies hit the dirt and didn't move. Marcus spent his last breath killing the man who destroyed him. I carried Marina 3 miles until my radio finally caught signal. Rescue chopper came half an hour later. By then I felt half alive, half drifting. When we brought the FBI back, the cabin was ash. But the tunnels remained. And with them, the truth. 3 months later they unearthed bodies from 17 different sites. Sylvan S-37 was dead on. Families finally got answers. But I lost everything else. I quit the moment they found the last body. I cowed and walk a trail without feeling watched. Cowed and searched for a lost hiker without imagining the guide beside them smiling like Sylvan used to. Marina survived. Testified in a sealed court case. The Park Service buried almost all of it. Official line said Sylvan died in a cabin fire. Marcus wasn't even mentioned. But I know the truth. And it eats at me like acid. The nightmares still come. The cages. The whispers. The feeling of arriving one day too late. Of the tunnel caving in. Of Marcus never appearing. Of Sylvan still out there. Rangers still ask me, how do you spot someone like him? I tell them the only honest thing. You don't. Not at first. So never trust blindly. Always verify. And never, ever go alone. Marina called last week, said she's moving to Alaska to face her fear. Asked if it'd come. I cowed and the thought of a forest that remote makes me physically sick. She endured 3 weeks in that hell. I only saw minutes of it. And am ruined. Therapists said to write it out. Said it might help. So here it is. If you go into the wild, be careful. Monsters look human. Trust is a trap. And the prettiest places cast the darkest shadows. My name is Elias Thornfield, former park ranger. And this is the last warning I know how to give. Sometimes your life hangs by a thread, balanced between a friendly smile and the teeth behind it. I used to work patrol up in the Arca Ridge Sacred Reserve, a jagged chain of gray stone peaks, where the night fog rolls in like the breath of some enormous sleeping animal. I love that place. Love the silence so deep you could hear your own heartbeat echo back at you off the cliffs. But that love laid me straight into a secret that shredded my sleep forever and bent my life into a darkness I haven't found the edges of yet. It started in late 2018, when the nightmares began whispering through the rotting leaves. The first hints came from scattered reports by climbing groups. They spoke in low voices about dark vehicles appearing only at night near a canyon called hallowed catechism so deep even the wind avoided it. The vehicles looked like ambulances, but without sirens or flashing lights. They moved in a quiet, precise formation down a trail that didn't appear on any map. First to a vehicle carrying equipment, then to vans hauling cargo, and finally a black windowed escort creeping behind them like a shadow that didn't want to be caught. My supervisors brushed it off, said they were just geologists or weekend rescue volunteers. They laughed. But I'd spent 12 years wandering every crooked trail in Arca Ridge. I could sketch the land's veins from memory. No new route appeared without crossing my desk. What chilled me most were the details the climbers mentioned. The metallic tang mixed with wet earth. The smell of fresh blood cut with disinfectant. The night I decided to follow them, the cold was so sharp my breath froze into white cords that wrapped around my neck like tightening ropes. I parked my old patrol truck near the canyon's lip, killed the engine, and sat in the dark with nothing but a distant owl for company. Near midnight, they arrived. 3 ash-gray vehicles, fog lights glowing like demon eyes through the mist. They drifted across a stretch of road that had been washed out for 3 years. Massive boulders and fallen trees everywhere, at least according to my own last report. But now the path was smooth, cleared, as if an invisible hand had swept everything aside. No machinery tracks, no sound of earth warps, just a faint burnt rubber smell curling through the air. I followed, keeping my distance, heart hammering loud enough I swore the trees could hear it. They slipped into a narrow cut I'd always assumed only a fox could squeeze through. But as the fog thinned behind the pines I stopped dead. A hidden compound lay tucked inside the canyon floor. Ventilation ducts exhaling thin ribbons of artificial breath. A generator hummed beneath a camouflage of leaves, but not a single light glowed. It looked like a military field hospital left behind by a war that never made the news. I parked far off, locked the truck, and crept on foot. My boots sank into damp, decaying leaves, every step a warning scraping across my nerves. My scalp tingled like eyes were tracking me from the darkness. Through a narrow slit in the window shade, pulled tight, like someone was afraid of being seen, I caught a glimpse inside. A stainless steel operating table, halogen lamps dangling like metallic spiders, glass specimen boxes labeled with neat numbers. The smell of antiseptic hit first, then something thicker. Heavier fresh organ smell, like a slaughterhouse burrowed into the forest floor. Figures in white coats moved quickly, efficiently. Their voices low, clinical, sharp enough to cut skin. Scalpel blades flashed cold under the blue-tinted lights. And in the center of the room lay a man or whatever was left of him, strapped to the table by leather at wrists and ankles. Skin pale, IV drip snaking into his arm. His chest bore a long incision, roughly stitched. And I swear I saw a gloved hand glide over him like someone checking inventory. I was swallowing back bile when a voice hissed behind me, familiar, but drained of everything human. "Kai, you really shouldn't be here." I spun, hand gripping my sidearm. Lysander Holt. My mentor. My friend. The man who taught me to follow gray bear tracks and shared whiskey with me during blizzard nights. Now he wore a black coat. Moonlight carved harsh lines across his face. And his eyes, those worn, weathered eyes, were sharp as surgical steel. "Why?" My voice cracked. "What are they doing in there? Who is that man?" Lysander stepped forward slowly, the way you approach a skittish animal. Kai, some things are bigger than these mountains. The people inside they don't take from the living. Only from ghosts, the nameless, the drifters. Those no one will claim. His breath fogged in the cold. They save lives that matter, politicians, billionaires. The ones who steer the world. They vagrant's heart for a president's life. Where do you think medical breakthroughs come from? Public surgeries. My stomach twisted so hard I nearly doubled. And you're part of this? He sighed, and in that moment he looked ancient. In the last layer of security. I keep you and others like you safe. Go home, Kai. Elena's waiting for you with dinner. And Mia, his voice softened. She showed me her drawing yesterday. Daddy, the brave ranger. Don't let them become material. His words stabbed straight through my chest. They knew my daughter's name. They knew her drawings. They knew everything. Footsteps rustled in the brush, steady, rhythmic, like the heartbeat of something waking up. Lysander gripped my shoulder, fingers digging hard. Run. Forget all of this. Otherwise our courage will swallow you and everything you love. I wanted to draw my gun. Wanted to scream. But Maya's little smiling face flashed in my mind, her messy crayon picture. And the smell of organs from that room smashed into me again. I turned and ran. Branches slapped my face like leather whips as I tore through the dark. That night I got home and couldn't even remember the drive. Elena asked what was wrong, but I mumbled something about an injured bear. My hands trembled when I held Mia as she slept, and that whole night I dreamed of glass boxes filled with beating hearts, calling my name. A few days later, I went back with a map and flashlight, but the road was gone, covered by fresh leaves. Trees shifted, rearranged with impossible precision, like the forest had healed itself overnight. No tire marks, no burnt rubber smell, nothing, except a scratch carved into a rock. A triangle with a line through the center, the same symbol stamped on the specimen boxes. A month passed, a month of rotting guilt and sleep that never came. Then they found Lysander in his cabin. Hanged. Suicide, the report said. But I knew better. They punished him for letting me walk away. After that, the darkness followed. Vehicles idling outside my house at 3 a.m. Headlights sweeping like a predator's gaze. Maya's toys arranged into perfect triangles, each with a cut down the middle like a surgical diagram. Our dog barking every night at an empty backyard, while the scent of disinfectant drifted on the wind. I requested a transfer. Avoided night shifts. Tried to bury myself in routine. But the fear didn't care. It wasn't fear of dying. It was fear that my silence made me a traitor to my own family. Elena noticed. She pulled away. Her voice cracked. Kai, you look at me like I'm a ghost. What's killing you inside? That question snapped something in me. Silence was protecting them. It was feeding the darkness. So tonight, while the fog coils outside my window again, I'm writing this as my final curse. Ocker Ridge isn't a sanctuary. It's a body. And the canyons are its mouths, feeding on the nameless to nourish the powerful. Every year, dozens vanish. Not 2 wild animals. Not 2 cliffs. They are harvested. Hearts, livers, kidneys, all bartered in nameless rooms under the trees. The organization never stops. They move like ghosts, shifting camps before dawn, always 1 ridge ahead of the law. Lysander was just 1 layer of skin they shed. And if one day I disappear, a mountain road accident, or a slip on winter ice, know this, it won't be an accident. Ocker Ridge has mouths always open, always whispering. And sometimes, it chooses to devour the ones who once loved it. If you're reading this, burn it. But remember, the fog is rising, and it carries the smell of blood. My name's Elias Thornfield, and I've been a park ranger here in Blackwater Bayou for 17 years. These swamps aren't just land I patrol, they're a part of me. Every twisted root feels like a vein beneath my skin. Every layer of viscous mud clings to me like rotting flesh. And the night wind carries whispers I can't understand, curses that brush against my mind. The swamp isn't just territory, it's alive, ancient, hungry, and it punishes trespassers. Summer 2019 taught me a new kind of terror sometimes. The place you trust to uphold justice is the very thing that hunts you, and it never lets go. It started with a missing person report. Victor Langley, a wealthy developer from New Orleans, vanished on what should have been a routine fishing trip at 100 Island Lake. His boat was moored near Willow Point, engine ticking like a wounded animal's ragged breath. Fishing gear lay scattered across the wet deck. And Victor, gone. No footprints, only strange mud streaks smeared along the hull, like desperate hands clawing for life. And a stench, not dead fish, something rotten from within. 12 hours later, the ransom demand arrived. Not to his family, but directly to my ranger station, through a battered satellite phone abandoned at the creek. The message was clear: they wanted me, because I understood the swamp better than anyone. There was more. Months ago, it burned money hidden by smugglers in a cypress hollow instead of turning it in. They knew. They had photos. Blurry, shadowed images showing me grinning over the flames. The threat was unmistakable if I didn't cooperate. Victor would die slow and agonizing, and they'd defilm it for his family. The voice hissed through the crackle: the swamp will whisper your name forever. Elias. It remembers betrayers. I should have called the FBI. But pride and fear mixed into reckless defiance. And deeper still, I feared the swamp itself already knew me too well. I convinced Victor's family to deliver the money quietly, insisting it was to protect the investigation. The coordinates led to a high mound surrounded by floodwaters, accessible only by boat at high tide or by slogging through mud and reeds at low tide. They demanded I go alone, unarmed, carrying the cash in a backpack. Let the swamp test your loyalty, the voice sneered through static. I left before dawn. The fog was thick as a spider's web, choking the early light. Reeds clawed at my clothes like sharp fingers. Mud sucked at my boots, pulling at each step, as if buried souls were trying to drag me under. Mosquitoes swarmed, their bites sharp, almost whispering, or was I imagining it? The air reeked of rot, decay creeping into my lungs, forcing me to cough until my chest ached. Exhausted, I pressed on. Victor's face haunted me: 3 children, a grandson. He didn't deserve this nightmare. Yet I felt it. The swamp was watching. Shadows flickered across the water without wind, leaves shivered though the air was still. Near the coordinates, signs appeared. A piece of Victor's clothing hung from a cypress root, his empty wallet dangling from a branch like a curse. His wedding ring poked from the mud, scarred with bite marks sharper than any crocodile's, jagged, almost human. The path twisted like a living maze. Every turn seemed to shift with my heartbeat. Sunlight glittered off the water in staccato flashes through thinning canopy like hundreds of eyes blinking. Observing, I was disoriented, drained, and then I realized the whispers weren't in my head anymore. They were real. Names of old victims it searched for, missing persons long swallowed by the swamp, now calling me. Elias, join us, the swamp forgives the loyal. At the rendezvous point, dim light filtered through the canopy. An old hunting shack had been modified, moss-covered, cobweb bed. Vibrating with a pulse, I cowed in place. Inside, Victor's cage, alive. Dehydrated, bite-marked, one leg crudely splintered with tightly wound roots. He raised a trembling hand through the bars. Thank God you saved me, his voice cracked. But his eyes, they weren't human anymore. Cloudy, invaded by something from the swamp itself. He whispered in rhythm with the wind. It is inside me. Before I could ask more, there was movement behind me. Not footsteps, but the squelch of mud, something surfacing from the earth. A figure appeared at the edge of the clearing. A woman. A gun in hand. Celine Carrington. I recognized her immediately. Celine, a biologist who'd worked with me countless times, brilliant, obsessed with protecting this swamp. But now her skin was pale, like bark stripped of life, eyes glinting with a strange green luminescence. Her arms were etched with vein-like scars, twisting like roots under the skin. Hello, Elias, she said calmly, her voice blending with the whispers of the wind. I wondered when you'd finally see us. I stammered, voice shaking. Celine, what's happening? She smiled, but her eyes didn't. Shadows flickered across them, like formless shapes dancing behind. Justice, she said. You remember the fire, Elias. Victor did nothing wrong, but his company destroyed the swamp, bribed to faked reports. I reported it 18 times nothing, so I acted. He'll live 5 days in the swamp. Drink its water, feel its pain. And now the swamp will seep into him, as it did into me. Celine stepped closer, gun trained on me, and I realized the whispers weren't just around us. They were inside Victor, echoing her words in a horrific chorus. Celine, this isn't justice. I croaked, my voice trembling. It's kidnapping. Let him go. Take the money and disappear. Her laugh was wet and dry, like roots scraping against rotten wood. Money. I don't need it. I want you to understand. See as I see and join me. Together we're the solution part of the swamp. She raised her hand. From the mud, mossy tendrils slithered up, wrapping around Victor's legs, whispering his name. She advanced, gone unwavering. I glimpsed other cages empty but clearly used recently. Blood still stained the floors. On the walls, crudely carved names, dates, and a symbol, a circle of roots devouring a human figure. Where are the others? I asked. Voice cracking as the whispers called my name louder, drawing me in. Return to nature, she said. Crocodiles, snakes' life cycles over things. Victor is strong, but you, Elias, you burned our money. The swamp remembers. It's hungry. My blood ran cold. I realized my so-called act of justice had awakened something. Not Celine, but the thing that had chosen her. I pulled the money from my pack, setting it down. Take it, and release us both. I don't want it. She pointed toward a small, camouflaged shed. Inside, a detailed map of Blackwater BO, dozens of raid access. Names on dates marking destroyers, developers, poachers. In the center, my name. An X spreading like a wound. Some of the missing had never been accounted for, and now they whispered from the map, like living parchment. You're a serial killer, I said, my voice echoing strangely, as if coming from beneath the mud itself. Pride gleamed in her eyes. I'm a protector. Or I would be, if you have the courage. Now you do too, Elias. The swamp chose you long ago. Celine opened Victor's cage, dragging him out, forcing him to kneel in the mud. Your choice, Elias. Join, and he lives. Refuse, he dies. And the swamp will seep into you, slowly. She was 5 meters away. One lunge and she could kill both of us. No comms, no backup. No one knew I was here. But the whispers echoed in my head, joined seeping. How do I know you'll keep your word? I asked, hands shaking. 3 other developers survived by agreeing. They fear returning but lived. Now they whisper with the swamp. I keep my word. I hesitated. I had no other choice. The whispers grew into a symphony, dragging me closer. Fine. I join. Releasing. Her smile turned sinister. Prove your commitment. She tossed a knife at my feet. Mark him. Forever. And let the swamp know he is yours. Victor was too weak. His eyes now fully green, vacant. I picked up the knife, carving the word DESTROY into his forehead. Blood welled, mixing with mud, and from the cut, tiny green tendrils began to sprout, crawling outward. He screamed, faint and dragged, the sound merging with the whispers chanting my name. Celine clapped. Perfect. You are part of the solution. Of us. Then I lunged, fighting through the mud. The device fell from her hands. We tumbled, mud sliding into our mouths, clinging to our hair, skin crawling as if something was burrowing under my flesh. Celine lunged for the device. I grabbed her leg, pulling her back. Her attack washed with her hands. It was the roots, growing from her arms. I saw them pulse beneath her skin like veins. She withdrew, sprinted to her boat, snatched the device, and vanished into the intertwining waterways. But before she disappeared, she whispered, "You can't escape, Elias. It's inside you now." I knelt in the mud, gasping. I survived. Victor survived. Temporarily. But Celine had escaped. And she had the device. And now, the whispers weren't out there anymore, they were in my head. I returned to Victor. He leaned against a cypress, drenched in sweat, the word destroy bleeding. Yet tiny black-green moss sprouted from it, blooming like a dark flower. "I'm sorry," I whispered to him, to myself, to the swamp. And the whispers answered, "It's all right, you are ours." I found Celine's satellite phone in the shed and called for rescue. Official report: Victor was found in the abandoned camp. Kidnapper escape. Nothing mentioned about the device, the dark bargain, or the X-marked map. No mention of the tendrils spreading beneath my skin, itching like a reminder. Celine Carrington vanished completely from Blackwater Bayou. Her boat drifted 10 kilometers, moss-covered. Never recovered. Research logs lost. FBI investigated for weeks. Found nothing. Only vague reports of strange whispers in the swamp. Victor recovered, sold his company, donated to conservation, and withdrew from public life. Every year he sends me a letter, thanking me. Always ending with, "Do you think she was right?" And then stains like creeping roots mark the paper. I've never told anyone about the device, or the dark deal, or the Raid X map. Celine's gaze before she vanished still haunts me, woman certain of her sanity in a world gone mad. But now, late at night, when the swamp lies silent, I look in the mirror and see pale skin, eyes glinting in unnatural green, twisted root like scars creeping under my arms. The whispers are no longer illusions. They tell me of the next excess, the next destroyers to return to nature. If it shot her back then, would it have ended everything? Or merely chosen someone else to rise? Blackwater Bayou is vast, wild, and someone is always ready to kill to protect what they deem sacred. Now I know it's not someone else. It's me. And the swamp whispers, "Welcome home, Elias. We'll be together forever."